Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to be giving you a basic run through of filming tips and tricks using your mobile phone. If your phone has a micro SD card slot, make sure you're recording your video to the micro SD card and not the internal storage. If it doesn't, try to free up as much internal memory as possible before you start shooting. I would suggest having about 5 gigs of free space. Before you set out to film, make sure you ideally have 100%. If you have a spare battery or an external battery pack, take that with you and don't forget the cable. High resolution video contains more detail and is better for viewing on larger screens, but because of its size, it also takes up a lot of memory, so keep this in mind. If a tripod or a stabilizer is at your disposal, use it. Now once you've done all your prep, it's time to get out there and start shooting. First thing to do is to make sure that you're filming in landscape. Check that you're actually shooting in landscape by the icons that are on the screen. If they're not facing the right way, you may be holding it landscape, but the phone hasn't actually recognized that it's rotating, and you still may be shooting in portrait mode. Some phones allow you to activate a grid on the camera app. So if you can, where the lines cross in the frame, put something of interest. If you're filming a person, position their head over one of these points to create more energy and interest in the composition than simply centering the subject. Most smartphones have digital zooms, which are just software tricks that make your subject appear closer by cropping the image. In order to zoom without losing quality, you'll have to get physically closer to your subject. Just keep your phone as still as possible and slowly approach your subject with your feet. So think about other shots that you can get. It can be as simple as shooting your subject both from close up and far away. Use both hands and lock your elbows into your body for stability. If you have the option, you can even lean on the wall to stop yourself from shaking. Some phones may have an anti-shake function, which is also recommended. One of the most important settings on the phone is probably the auto exposure lock, because you don't want the smartphone to keep changing exposure while you're filming. This will often happen if you're panning across a room that has bright lights or windows, so try setting the exposure on an area that gives you good exposure overall for the room. You can only do this by just holding your finger on the screen. Autofocus can work well the majority of the time, but manually setting the focus or locking is great when you want to get close to an object. This can also be done by just touching on the part of the screen you want the camera to focus on. Quick moving shots not only run the risk of it being shaky, but it doesn't actually allow the viewer to take in what you're trying to show them. When moving, record at least 5 seconds of your starting position and then slowly move the camera holding at the end position for another 5 seconds. So this gives you enough time to create transitions and cutting points in the edit later. If your phone has high dynamic range or HDR video settings, try it. This produces a flatter image which helps balance the overexposed sections with the underexposed sections. Frames per second, or FPS, is how many frames or images are contained within a 1-second video. So the standard film look is 25 FPS. FPS helps control the way motion appears in a scene. A higher frame rate picks up more images and makes movement in the scene look sharper and smoother. So shooting towards the light, especially like a bright sun, can create a halo effect, which makes your subjects look dark. Having the light behind you will light the subject correctly, but beware of any shadows that you may cast. Move around a few times to find out what angle works best for you. So to recap, before you shoot, make a plan. Make sure your phone is charged and has space. Set the camera to film in full HD or 4K where possible, and clean a lens. While filming, keep it in landscape. Get a variety of shots, keep it slow and steady. Check your composition for correct light and focus, and don't zoom. For basic editing tips and tricks, we'll be putting this into another video, but for now, thanks for watching.